Paris, France. The French capital awoke chaos after powerful overnight storms swept through the Ile-de-France region, bringing hurricane-force winds, torrential rain, and intense lighting that lit up the Parisian skyline. When our iconic boulevards were transformed into rivers, metro stations were flooded, and thousands were left without electricity. According to Meteo France, when the gusts exceeded 120 km/h in parts of the capital, with more than 16 millimeters of rain fell in just 3 hours, an amount normally seen over several weeks. The Seine River rose rapidly and water poured in to underground car park near the city center. "I feel like the sky exploded," said Marie Larrier, a resident of Montreal district. "It was a thunder every few seconds, windows shaking and water gushing through the streets like a waterfall." Emergency service received over 1,200 calls during the night, rescuing driving trapped in submerged tunnels and responded to multiple reports of fallen trees. In the 15th arrondissement, the large earth collapsing out parked vehicles were parts of the Champs-Élysées were perilously close due to debris.
Oh my god! What the fuck? Oh my god!
Several metro lines, including lines 1, 4, and 13, experienced major distortion as the water swept in the station. Communities forced long delay with a rapid urgent residents to avoid necessary travel. Power outage left more than 25,000 homes in the dark, particularly in the Paris southern suburbs. The storm also damaged parts in the Ila Tower lighting system, forcing engineers to shut it off to safety inspirations. Lighting stuck near Notre Dame Cathedral, creating dramatic body homeless flash captured by onlookers. Paris Mayor Anne Hidalgo urged calm, praising first response to the swift action. "Our city was forced to severe weather before, but the intensity of the last night's storm show how climate change is amplifying these events," she said. "We will assist all those affected. They strengthened our flood resilience." Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most violent in decades as a result of a powerful Atlantic depression scalding with warm continental air from the northern France. Experts warn that such extreme weather events could become more frequent if Europe's climate continues to warm. By morning, Parisians emergency to survive the damaged streets, literally the branches flooded, cave terraces, and disrupted train schedule. Yet a month after month, when also relief, clear skies returned, the city resilient spirit shone through the once again. Paris, France, the heat of European most iconic city through the interdisary as a violent overnight storm battered Paris and surrounding suburbs, leaving behind the trail of destruction rarely seen in modern times. The fire and tempest driven by the deep Atlantic pressure system unleashed torrential rainfall, different thunder and hurricane-force winds, plunged parts of the capital in the darkness and the chaos. According to the Meteo France, Paris endured record-breaking rainfall, more than 16 millimeters in just 4 hours, flooding entire districts including said German Dispel, Baseline, and Atlantic water. The city again drainage networks strategically to cope, tuning cobblestone streets into fast-moving rivers. "It was terrifying," said Claire Depot, who lives near Gerard-Lyon. Within a minute, water was knee-deep. Cars were flooding. The lighting was so bright it felt like drying for a second. Authorities reported over 1,800 emergency calls, with firefighters rescuing dozens trapped in the basements and underground car park. Several metro stations were forced to close after water cascaded down, stairways were portions of red line were suspended. At least 14 flights were delayed or diverted on Charles de Gaulle and Orly airports and again about 114 km on our battered runway. The 11 tower safety lights temporarily shut down due to the electrical surge in the 17th around this section of scaffolding for the nearby structure, cities collapsing on the streets. Miraculously, no fatalities were reported. 35 people were injured, including 2 firefighters. Paris Major Ana Hidalgo called on an emergency meeting early Wednesday, urging calm to promises with restoration efforts. Our infrastructure, who pushed to the limits, she said. These events once again demonstrated the urgent need to climate adaptation in urban areas. Meteorologists described the storm as one of the most intense connective systems in decades, caused by the collisions in a humid Mediterranean air with a cold front swept in the Atlantic. This class generated a supercell system production extreme lighting activity to flash flooding across central France. Across social media, dramatic footage showed hail blanket sidewalks like a snow, bases standing in rising water and a lighting board sinking near the egg-dead termite. Uprooted trees and damaged power lines. It sounded like a fire train rushed through the city, say Munich resident Johannes Keller, describing the terrifying moment when the storm hit. France faced severe coastal flooding, especially along the Atlantic coast. In a vortex, storm surge flooded streets with strong winds, small window, and overturned car. Local authorities declared a state of emergency and urged cities to stay indoors. We haven't seen conditions like this in decades, say Major Alice Laurent. In Catalonia region of Spain, flash floods washed away cars and caused landslides in a mountain area. Rail and air travel were disrupted and hundreds of flights across Europe cancelled. Meteorologist service confirmed that the storm area received more than 115 millimeters of rainfall in less of 24 hours. Experts warn of the weather in Europe is becoming increasingly unstable. Storm in this magnitude used to occur on every 20 years.
在那里还会亮。对呀、这我靠，不是，那个好像是它电线被吹了，电线是电。
Train service was suspended in several provinces, and dozens of flights were cancelled. He rerouted the Charles of Gaulle and Orly airport. In a Bordeaux vineyard already vacated the wet summer suffered for the damage, raising fears and a poor harvest. We have lost entire section of our vineyard, explained Winmarker Claire Roseau. This is a devastation blow to our livelihood. And in French, entire minister deployed 3,500 firefighters, and the regional governor urged residents to stay indoors. 2 deaths have been confirmed, including the driver who was gassed and crushed in the fallen trees. Meteorologists said the storm was caused by the warm Atlantic air cooled in with a cold Arctic system, resulting in strong winds. Such events are becoming more frequent in the intense, warned climatologist Dr. Jean Morel, linking the storm to changing climate conditions. President Emmanuel Macron experienced solidarity with the affected families, promising rapid assistance to fund the recovery. But for many residents, the night of destruction will not forget anytime soon. We had stormed before, said local teacher Sophie Laurent from Naples, but never anything that shook the earth so much. A violent storm has battered Germany, causing strong winds, torrential rain and widespread disruption north from the North Sea to Bavaria. The system, one of the most intense of the season, was uprooted trees, torn up roofs and left hundreds of thousands of people without power. In Hamburg and Bremen, storm surge flooded River Seine neighborhoods and emergency crews rushed to build bird as the Elbe River overflowed. In Berlin, fallen trees blocked major roads in the tram lines, forcing communities to find alternative roads. Munich International Airports reported more than 100 cancelled flights, while trains in Bavaria and Saxony were halted due to the debris in tracks. Authorities confirmed multiple fatalities, including driver crushed by the fallen trees and the rescue workers swept away by the floodwaters. Dozens of people were injured by many debris flying through the city center. Hospital reported an increase in emergency admissions overnight. Residents described the storm as apocalyptic. The wind sounded like a freight train outside my window. We were building and shaking, said Anne Miller, a resident of Berlin. The Spanish Meteorological Service has declared a red alert for the eastern parts of the Valencia region due to heavy rain. Thursday, a repeat of the flooding that killed 235 people in the area last October. Spanish National Meteorological Service warned of extreme danger and a very difficult situation in Tarragona, Castellón and Valencia on a Sunday and Monday. On this warning was echoed Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. Citing of meteorological warning, Sánchez urged citizens to follow the instruction of the emergency service to all times. Local official announced that school and college libraries and parks, as well as public space including gardens, markets and cemeteries, would be closed in the Valencia on a Monday. Overnight rains caused local flooding and overflowing of Arroyo Aldea, one of the town's hardest hit by October 2024 flooded that killed more than 213 people. No casualties have been reported. On a Sunday afternoon, residents of the city received a red weather alert on this phone. The flooding caused by heavy rains in October last year were exacerbated by the effect of climate change. As a warning atmosphere holds more water, climate change increasing the risk and intensity of the flood from extreme rainfall. Local residents stretched a series of protests against for the believed this mismanagement of last year's crisis calamity. The regional offices did not warn in the time, despite the fact that meteorological service had issued warning. Europe is riddled after the wave of powerful storms swept across the continent, bringing hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, hail and flooding from Spain to Poland. Authorities have confirmed dozens of fatalities and hundreds of injured, with hundreds of thousands of households remain without electricity. In France, Paris, and hammered by heavy rain, is lighting forced to close at the metro lines and grounded flights to Charlie the airport. Streets and flying and boardwalks turned into rivers. An emergency crew reported more than 5,000 clouds overnight. Germany also brought to breath with a tornado like a wind North Rhine-Westphalia, ripping roofs to homes and uprooted trees. Rail service were suspended, highway blocked, and the school closed to official urged residents to stay indoors. It felt like the sky exploded, said Jens Fischer, with so calls lifted to overturned by sudden gusts. In Italy, Venice and Milan were swept by the flash floods, while the Rome enduring the violent hailstorm that shattered windows and damaged cars. Authorities warned to rising river levels in the north, in the fear of further flooding in the Po Valley. Spain forcing massive coastal swells and lightning storms, particularly in Barcelona and Valencia, with the Poland and Czech Republic struggled with the power cuts and transportation shutdowns after gale force winds across Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days while thousands of travelers were stranded with the train station. Insurance provider estimates that the damage could reach billions of euros after gale force winds across the Central Europe. Airports across the continent suffered several days with the thousands of Mediterranean said the storm system was following the coastal line by a Mediterranean air called Atlantic Front, creating a volatile chain reaction across Europe. Scientists warn the climate change is making such extreme wide-reaching weather events increasingly frequent. Spain is reeling after a violent storm swept through the large part of the country, bringing torrential rain, violent wind and sudden hailstorms that turned streets into a river overnight. The region of Madrid, Valencia and Andalusia were among the hardest hit, as emergency service walked through the night and the rescue-stranded residents took later blocked roads. Meteorologists described the event as one of the most intense autumn storms in recent years. It will the guest exceeded 120 km/h in the capital areas. The Spanish weather agency issued red alert, warning cities to stay indoors where necessary travel. In Madrid, heavy flooding forced the closure of several metro stations and caused several traffic chaos. It was like a waterfall coming down the streets, said local resident Laura Gomez. Cars were flooding, trees were fallen. It felt apocalyptic. In Valencia, firefighters reported the dozens of emergency calls and a flash flood inundated in low-lying neighborhoods. A powerful storm swept across Europe, leaving a trail of destruction. Storm Spain to Germany. Across on the offshore, it is one of the most destructive weather events of the continent in the last decade. In France, coastal towns in Brittany and Normandy were hit by winds up to 115 km/h, which tore roofs, houses, and forced ferry service to be cancelled. In Paris, sudden flooding inundated roofs and led to closure to some section of the metro. It felt like the city was flooded in a matter of minutes, said passenger Julien Maroux when they through waist-deep water. Southern Germany, including Bavaria, reported hailstorm the size of a golf ball that smashed car windows and damaged crops. Authorities confirmed several injured, and insurance companies warned that damage in agriculture could run into tens of millions of euros. Spain and Italy also experienced chaos. The streets of Valencia turned into rivers after 100 mm of rainfall into 2 hours. In Sicily, passed strong gust of winds and left thousands of people without electricity. The storm raged all night, recalled Sicilian resident Lucia Romano. We couldn't sleep, afraid that the roof might collapse. A powerful storm system was battered much of Europe, leaving a trail of destruction, transport, chaos, and a human tragedy in this way. The storm, which brought hurricane-force wind, torrential rain, and heavy snowfall in high areas, has affected countries such as France, Germany, Poland, Austria, and Balkans. In Paris, wind knocked down trees and damaged roofs, while trains and flights were delayed. In Bavaria, Germany, hail and strong gas battered small towns, breaking windows and damaged vehicles. The Netherlands reported severe coastal flooding as rags to 6 6-meter-high heat decks in parts. Authorities confirm at least a dozen fatalities across the continent, including drivers caught in the flash flooding and persistent stuck by fallen debris. Hundreds of thousands of homes were left without power overnight, and the emergency service received thousands of calls. Witnesses described terrified conditions. The roof of our town was lifted up 10 feet away in the where paper said, now walking the South Poland. In Austria, sky reports were cut off by avalanches, trapped tourists and the staff.
Mira cómo baja, madre mía. Madre mía. Esto me da mi...
Istanbul was hit by a sudden and severe hailstorm that turned a bustling metropolis into a scene of chaos and destruction. The storm, which lasted less than an hour, brought hailstones the size of a golf ball, smashed windows, damaged cars, and injured dozens of people who were outdoors. The city's streets were quickly covered with a white layer of hail, with a blockade and severe and causing sudden flooding. Major highways, including Bosphorus Bridge, were paralyzing, and cars were unable to drive through the city's sewers. Public transport was severely disrupted. Tram lines were blocked and ferry service across the strait were suspended. Istanbul International Airport also reported delays after runways were brilliantly covered in hail. Emergency service responded there hundreds of calls, rescuing people trapped in their cars and clearing collapsing owners and a heat collapsing under the weight of hail. Hospitals treated dozens of people and cars and a heat injuries, and authorities confirmed at least 2 deaths related to the storm. Residents described scenes of panic. It felt like the sky was falling. The noise of hail falling on the roof was different. In a matter of minutes, our streets looked like a cat snowed, said Ice Demir, a shop owner in Kadio. Video posted online showed buses stuck knee-deep in the water and trees blocked by the force of the storm. Agriculture in the surrounding Marmara region suffered significant damage. Vineyard and orchards were damaged, threatening in the harvest and local livelihood. Insurance companies are already estimated the damage of tens of millions of euros. Communities across Europe are in shock after a series of rare and powerful tornadoes swept through the parts of Germany, France and Czech Republic, leaving widespread destruction in their wake. Authorities have confirmed numerous casualties and more than 200 injured, with the homes destroyed, cars overturned and power lines downed. Western Germany was the hardest hit, with powerful wind which swept throughout the residential area, poured down, injured dozens of people and damaged hundreds of buildings. Roofs were turned off, trees were uprooted and debris was scattered across highways. It was like a fire train rushing throughout the city, said Catherine Miller, who took shelter in a basement with their family. In northern France, a tornado stuck near Calais overturned trucks on the A18 motorway and forcing several paths to close. Residents are decided chaos in the hail, lightning and stones wind battered cities already drenched in the heavy rain. The Czech Republic, still resilient from the devastating tornado in 2021, reported another severe storm in southern Bavaria, where homes and farms again destroyed it. Emergency service rushed to help stranded residents and volunteers working through the night to clear debris from narrow rural streets. Meteorologists say the tornadoes formed after the mass of hot Mediterranean air collided with a cold front moving from the Arctic, creating unstoppable conditions ideal to supercell storms. Experts warn that the climate change could make Europe more vulnerable to such rare but devastating events. Tornadoes were once considered almost impossible here, explained climatologist Dr. Helena Novak. Now they are becoming a dangerous new reality. The infrastructure of the three countries suffered serious damage. Rail service was suspended, tens of thousands of people were left without power due to power outage, and schools were closed to several regions. Insurance companies estimate the damage in the hundreds of millions of euros. Despite the devastation, there are stories of resilience. Neighbors formed human change of cleared debris, firefighters rescued trapped families, and the shelters opened their doors to lose their homes. As Europe began the long process of recovery, the tornado several stuck reminded that extreme weather is no longer confined to remote regions. It now processes to grow through to here to the continent. A wave of intense hailstorm swept across Europe, leaving behind broken roofs, destroyed groups and devastating communities from Italy to Germany, France and Poland. Meteorologists describe the event as one of the strongest hailstorms in the recent year, caused the collisions of cold southern air and a fast-moving cold front that swept across the continent. In Italy, especially the areas around Rome and Emilia-Romagna, the storm was accompanied by thunderstorm winds and hailstones the size of walnuts, which pelted cars and roofs and a thunderstorm rolled. In a matter of seconds, it was winter, said local residents Luca DeSantis. The streets turned white, we could hardly see anything. Several motorists were stranded off ice-blocked drainage system, flooded tunnels and city roads. Further north in Bavaria, Germany, the storm caused chaos in communities near the Munich and Augsburg. Cars were damaged, routes were uprooted and public transport was halted. Local authorities received more than 1,200 emergency calls in a few hours. Rescue team working continuously through the night across the continent. In Nepal, an emergency service responded more than 2,000 calls relating to flooding in fallen trees. Schools were closed, highways were blocked, and thousands of people through the temporary shelters. Damage to agriculture is exceeded to be significant. Vineyard in France, olive grapes in Italy, and through the field in Germany suffered heavy losers. Economy is estimated to total of cost damage of over 2 billion. A down broke the full extent of the destructive become apparent. Buildings destroyed, cars stranded, and communities under the airports were built. Schools were ordered to close. Authority urged residents to stay indoors. Witnesses described terrifying scenes. It was like a river rushing down by our streets. Cars were flooding and shops' windows collapsing in a matter of minutes, said Joe Martinez, a shop owner in central Valencia. Farmers in the surrounding area reported catastrophic losses with the citrus grove and the rice fields devastation of the flood. Local authorities have declared a state of emergency, and the Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez was pledged immediate assistance. The government stands with Valencia, will rebuild and support all families affected. Experts warn that climate change is intensifying. Extreme weather events in the Mediterranean were worryingly increasing the risk in torrential rain and flash floods in Valencia. The storm has left a trail of destruction and urgent questions about preparedness of the storm to come. Several music festivals and outdoors events were cancelled, leaving thousands and visitors stranded in makeshift shelters. Switzerland too reported significant damage. In Zurich and Lorentz, public transport was suspended as a hail closed rail lines and flooded tram tunnels. Airways saw delays, where insurers prepared for the decided one of the most expensive summer storms in recent years. Hospitals across affected countries treated hundreds of injuries from cuts of barriers and the most serious trauma caused by the fallen debris. Power outage hit tens of thousands of homes while schools and businesses closed in the hardest hit regions. Meteorologists explained that the storm was triggered by the collisions of humid Mediterranean air with the cold northern winds, producing intense supercells capable of generating giant hail. Scientists warn such events are becoming more frequent as Europe warns. We are seeing a climate shift, say climatologist Dr. Eva Schinder. Storms like these, once rare, are now a growing threat. Despite the disruption, communities are relevant. Volunteers cleared streets of ice, neighborhood sheltered fruits, and extended travels, and emergency crew worked tirelessly to restore power. As Europe begin counting the cost and a hailstorm severe as another stark reminder of nature growing volatility and the urgent need to resilience and efforts of climate experts.